welcome you to the Sarah Nutritional Therapy live broadcast. So things look a little different here, but if you I just want to invite you to like the video if you like this type of content and subscribe to our social medias. I'm just getting that right out front. We're doing the housekeeping early. Things have changed a little bit here. The platform is going through some updates, and so hopefully they will begin to put all the other pieces back into place that will help me to continue to put out the type of broadcast that I want to put out. So anyway, excluding my little mishaps and mistakes, but I invite you to follow us on SAIRNT Nutritional Therapy, or SAIRNT, on Facebook as well as YouTube. And you can catch this content again. We're streaming live on Instagram at Some Sweet Foods and on Twitter at Some Sweet Foods. So, and you can also catch this in a rebroadcast on all of your favorite podcast networks. So, yes, there's not a title there for you all today. Like I said, and this is in a portrait format. I like the landscape format, but this is the way it is for now. I find that this is one of the best ways for me to be able to stream to all of the various platforms. And so just going to kind of hang in there, see what happens. I'd used a different streaming service yesterday, and with that one, I'm only able to stream to just YouTube. So hopefully you guys are able to see this. Just like I said, drop a comment wherever you are following and just let me know if you can hear me and if you can see me and all of that good stuff. So so this is different. It's different, but hey, it is what it is. So what's our topic for today? Oh yeah. And by the way, then see, I can't even share here. So if you want to get a hold of Some Sweet, that is the most spectacular sweetener on the market. I say that because Some Sweet actually helped me to kick my sugar addiction. So I am no longer addicted to sugar. And it was because I was able to use Some Sweets that helped me to kick my sugar addiction. I always tell you all that I am a recovering, a reformed or sugar addict, and I was addicted to sugar for a number of years. That was basically what my diet consisted of. And now I am, like a lot of people, on the mend and getting healthier, and I help other people to do the same thing. Great. I see a message there that says, yes, I see you and I hear you. Yeah, I know yesterday it was kind of hard. So yeah, so I'm so glad that you can see and hear me. And this is an improvement because previously I wasn't able to really see my messages and see where they were coming from. So that is an improvement, that it is bringing over the messages a little bit better. So I want to remind us that this is November is National Diabetes Awareness Month. So just to make you aware of that if you need to know what your risk for diabetes is or pre-diabetes, you can go over to the American Diabetes Association, and they do have a test over there that you can take, an assessment, a quiz that you can take to let you know what your risk factors are. So I admonish you to go over there and to do that and to take that test. So again, I'm not able to bring in any graphics or anything like that, share screens or do anything like that at this point as they are updating the app. Those are things that I do see that in the future that they will bring those things back onto this platform, and hopefully they'll also bring back the landscape view as well. Just also want to remind you and share with you all about the guests that we have coming up next week. We're going to keep on doing this, but we have guests coming to the show next week. Before we jump over into the topic, on Tuesday of next week, we have Denise Wester. She's an author and a health coach. And then on Wednesday, because we're doing a special day next week, on Wednesday, we have Dr. Supatra Tovar, and she's a licensed psychologist, fitness expert, and registered dietitian as well. And then on Thursday we have Minister Becky Whitehead, who is also um, a nutritional therapist as well. So that's what we have on deck for next week. Those are the guests that we have on deck for next week. So I just ask that you just join us, tune in, and then on the other days, on Friday, we'll just have our regular scheduled broadcast with the health updates and news and information. So, what is today's subject? While I bring up the notes, and it looks like things are going fairly well with this, so I'm kind of happy about that. So, what are we talking about today? Let me see if I can get the two screens side by side here, the way that I usually do that. And let's see, make sure that that's going to happen. And bring that back up into the view there. Make the screen smaller, so and just try to divide a mobile app, so it is resizing and all of that. So well, it's what it's doing, and it's new. So let me scramble, find a way to get my notes up here, and we'll make it work the best way we can. How about that? And it looks like that's the best that I can do there. So oh well. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about factors that affect blood glucose. So yes, factors that affect blood glucose. So that's the subject for today. And let's jump on in, because as it is Diabetes Awareness Month, I just want to make us aware of the factors that can affect your blood glucose. And so there's this little handy dandy chart that I found that talks about the way that these various factors, and if I can get the screens to move appropriately here, we'll talk about them. So what we're gonna go over um, we're going to go over these factors that can affect your blood glucose. And remember, your blood glucose is the amount of sugar that is present in your blood. And insulin has to be released in order to scavenge that and take that glucose into the cells to be stored or used for energy. So the factors that affect your blood glucose, and we're going to just go over some of the basic ones. So carbohydrate quantity, carbohydrate type, those are some factors. So we have food, we have medication, activity, biological, environmental, and behavioral decisions. All of these play a role and affect your blood glucose. So let's start with food factors. So the carb type, the ratio of fiber to carbs, we say this all the time. When we say that you should eat complex carbs because they have fiber in them, but the ratio of fiber to total carbs, the sugar to total carbs, and the liquid versus solid. So that is an important piece of how this would affect your glucose. So not all carbs are created equal, because we've talked about that before. So the major sources of carbs should be like green veggies, nuts, seeds, chia, that's a seed as well, things like that. And should tend to have 50 to 80% of the carbs from fiber and be very low in sugar. So You could be something like chia pudding that would have like 20 grams of carbs, 16 grams of fiber. You see that ratio there? 20 grams of carbs with 16 grams of from fiber. So you want foods with high fiber to total carbs ratio, and that will have a lower impact on your blood glucose. And with the same amount of total carbs and no fiber, well, then you know how that's going to affect you. In addition, the more grams of carbs that come from sugar, the higher the impact on the blood glucose. So we know that, we understand that. And so, what about liquid carbs? So, liquid carbs will usually increase your blood glucose more quickly than solid carbs, which is the reason why say no juices and things like that. These juices or smoothies, those are liquid, or smoothies. I mean, it's smoothie might be a little chunky, but it's still, a little liquid in there, already chewed kind of stuff. So you want to actually chew that and put in the work so that it doesn't make it to your bloodstream as fast. The sugar doesn't. So is going to result in higher overnight blood sugars. Now, if you have a problem with having low blood sugar at night, then that means you might want to consume your food a little later. Because if you have that problem with low blood sugars overnight, I know some people do. You may not be diabetic. You might not even be pre-diabetic, or your numbers may be reversing and going down. But at night, you have low blood sugar, and the way you know you have low blood sugar could be that you have nightmares. You wake up at night, you wake up in a cold sweat or sweating and things like that. That is an indication that you could possibly have low blood sugar overnight. So in that case, you want to eat a snack or have your meal later at night before you go to bed, so that you can kind of regulate your blood sugars at night, especially if you tend to have lower blood sugars overnight. So that was something that you might want to do. So also, when you do intermittent fasting, so this is a part of timing your meals, and that's time restricted eating. You would want to have, your first meal later in the day so that you can have your last meal later in the day. So that will help you to do that. But remember, you still sometimes, because in the morning, so that your first meal being your break fast, right? Because you're breaking your fast, your breakfast. So you would have that later in the day, so you can have your meal later at night. What else? Let's see. Dehydration. So dehydration will have an effect on your blood sugar levels. So dehydration seems to increase the blood glucose levels. So there was a randomized controlled study back in 2001, and it showed that dehydration did raise blood glucose levels for those in a fasted state. So you want to make sure that you stay hydrated. I have my water right here, and I can't take breaks the way that I used to, put my little commercial things in to take a sip. Or y'all just have to watch me chug the water. But anyway, so so you want to stay hydrated, so because dehydration can raise your blood glucose levels. What else? Let's see. So there was another study in 2012 that showed that dehydration increases the levels of the hormone vasopressin, which pushes the liver to produce blood sugar. So basically there was and that was like reported in the New York Times, and they used the headline that said drinking water can reduce the risk of diabetes. But so so that occurred as well. So what else can we say about how things can affect your factors that affect blood glucose? Your personal microbiome or your gut bacteria. So there's a lot of research that's been going on, and it continues to go on, that talks about the impact of gut bacteria or microbiome on blood glucose levels and insulin sensitivity. So there's a study that has been done, and this was done in a TED talk. So it's profiling what's the best diet for humans. They and a number of studies have been published, and it shows that, and this is like going back to cell. This name of this study was cell metabolism, and that was back in 2017, and it showed how the um, gut bacteria affected the how it affected the individual glucose response. So that plays a huge role in that. And gut bacteria, I have to go back because it's in different places. So we go back, and so we want to see that these things that affect your, let's see. So okay, and um, so that can affect it. So whether or not it would be increased or decreased would be depending on how your gut, your microbiome is doing. Medication can also be a factor. So steroids administration, prednisone, so that can cause a reaction to your blood glucose. So steroids like that increase blood glucose levels. So in part, it tells the liver to increase glucose production. So you want to, if you are taking steroid medications, you want to be aware of that. So let's talk about some vitamins and minerals. So niacin, which is vitamin B3, is typically prescribed to improve blood lipid levels, including your HDL, cholesterol, and triglycerides. And and it's been reported based on a study in 2005 that it increased blood glucose levels. So their blood glucose levels were seen to increase with niacin. Um, so that was a study that was done in 2005 showing that increases niacin, vitamin B3, increases blood glucose levels. So your level of fitness training also has an impact on your blood glucose levels. So when you're exercising, you may see a drop initially in your blood glucose levels. But that's when you first start exercising, you might see a drop, and then as time goes on, you it will probably lessen over time. So initially, so like when you just start with any exercise, you'll see blood glucose drops and things like that. And the reason why is because, hey, you're moving and your body uses glucose for what? Energy, and it's utilizing that energy. And over a period of time, it'll regulate itself, and you might not see those drops as much. The time of day will affect your blood glucose levels. So, um, so if you, along with your exercise, so if you exercise in the morning, you might see smaller drops in your blood glucose. So you can just be more mindful of that. You can food and insulin timing before exercise, that is a factor as well. So you would want to know what you're eating too close to the start of exercise can cause low glucose during your activity because the food hasn't been absorbed, and then you can see a spike afterwards. So you want to kind of eat and exercise, like keep it in balance, not right before you want to give your body enough time to use the energy that you've given it. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention to that. Now, there are biological factors that affect your blood glucose as well. So, and I mentioned before overnight blood sugars that you want to eat later in the day if you are experiencing the problems with low blood sugar. But let's look at the biological factors. So, too little sleep can increase your blood sugar levels, your blood glucose levels. So, you want to make sure that you're getting the proper amount of sleep and rest. Stress and illness will increase your blood glucose levels as well. Um, let's see. There's something called the dawn phenomenon, which is just before waking. So that can increase your blood sugars um, as well. Allergies, if you have allergies, that you can run the risk of having your blood sugars to be increased as well. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to that. Women, ladies, when you are menstruating, that is something that can increase your blood glucose levels, as well as puberty. If you have celiac disease, you might experience an increase in blood glucose levels, as well as if you smoke. So those are some biological factors. Um, the environment can have an impact. If it's hot outside, the outside temperature, that can raise your blood glucose levels. If you have sunburn, that's what you should always use sunscreen. Everybody should use sunscreen. Even the brown skin people should use sunscreen. Um, Black people should use sunscreen. I'm just one because I'm black. You should use sunscreen as well, because sunburn. Everybody is prone to sunburn, and the higher your risk for sunburn, the more that you will find that this might increase your blood glucose levels as well. We talked about food. We mentioned and we mentioned medications. Let's see. And the exercise, high intensity, moderate exercise, you can find that there could be, um, just depending, lowering, or it might increase, but so you just want to make sure you be really careful with your exercising. When you're exercising, monitor your blood sugars before and after. Let's see. And what else has an effect on your blood sugar? Family and social pressures. Can you believe that? Family and social pressure. Looks like my glasses just look crooked. It's like they always end up turning. But anyway, family and social pressures can have an effect on your blood glucose levels. So those are like behavioral and decision making factors, simply because um, those kind of things, people being around, that can have a huge influence on you and cause you to eat things that you shouldn't eat. And so that's how that works. So, what else can we say about that? We did talk about the temperature. Insulin, expired insulin can raise your blood glucose levels. So be very careful. I know that most people, if you are using insulin, you probably already know that you're not going to expose it to direct sunlight or leave it in a hot car or anything like that, because that can have an effect on your insulin and mess it up and then make it ineffective for you. Um, so there have been some studies that shows that the altitude um, could affect your blood glucose, but that's not really confirmed, but you would just want to monitor your blood sugars at that point if you were in a place like that. So, but that's it for what we're talking about as far as blood sugars go, and or things that can affect your blood sugar. Any of that come as a surprise to anybody? You know what? I'm not really liking the way, and I don't want to say that because this is going to be on my podcast, and this is going to be a podcast as well. And I want to leave you guys. I can't get all of my notes back and everything. It's really the way that the screen sharing and all of that is happening here is not really the way that it's not really the way that I like it. And I get used to things a certain way, and I kind of like for them to stay that way. And I just, and so I'm getting adjusted to this, and it's not bringing out, I feel like, the best, and I should. And I've had and I'm just going to tell you guys this because, we're just chatting here today. Um, I had a headache today, like a really bad one. I know you probably can tell, like um, I feel a little down um, today because my head is still kind of, it's throbbing a little bit, and I don't like to take medications or anything like that. So I kind of like to for it to pass on its own. And but so yeah, and I'm working really really hard to try and build out some different things um, that will help everyone, and so on and so forth. And so I got a lot of great stuff coming, and so and I'm trying to get used to this platform here. See there, I see it freezing and stuff like that, and I can't type in notes, and there's a lot of things that I can't do with it just yet. So I'm still working on it. Just getting used to it. But again, I would like to share graphics here with you guys, but I can't. Would like for you to be able to take a look at the Some Sweet packaging, but I can't get, because it's not available to me just yet. So, but that's okay. It will, and it's a really good thing. I was going to share some videos with you all with regard to some uh, for Diabetes Awareness Month. That would have been like a review of some videos and things like that. That we could just look at those together, just simply because I wanted us to be aware. There's this. There's this. There was a few great videos out there that I saw, and there was one that was with showing in Mexico how they have this one particular place where they have this where they don't have a lot of clean water, and everybody there basically consumes a lot of soda, and so there's a high diabetes rate in that town, in that place. And then also in the I think in American Samoa, that there's high diabetes there. And I just wanted to show the videos because the people, when they went there and they're talking, the journalists or whomever, they're talking to the people in those places, and just so you can be aware of how things happen, and how it can, because sometimes we feel like it's not going to happen. Like it's not going to happen to us, like we're okay, we're good, and we're still consuming a lot of the wrong foods, and you know and we want to wait. And I don't think that um, we really need to pay attention to what's going on. And that's why I'm telling us about the things that can cause high blood sugar, that can raise your glucose levels, because just because you're not diabetic, every time you eat, we're on this thing here in this country that, or maybe it's just not here, but since this is where I live, um, but there is this where they say eat 6 small meals a day, like when they're trying to get to help people lose weight, and they say eat 6 small meals a day. So, but the problem with that eating 6 small meals is that every time you eat, you spike your insulin, especially if you're eating foods that will spike your insulin. And it's the insulin spikes that end up causing the insulin resistance. And that is when you really just, and you're eating 6 small meals, but you're also doing damage. You could potentially be doing damage at the same time. So, you really should not eat 6 small meals a day, because it just depends on what it is that you're eating that you get those. And when your body goes through the series of spikes and drops and spikes and drops, you're creating an imbalance in your body, and you're going down the path of being insulin resistance. So, come on, this page is messing up. Okay. So yeah, so you're going down the path of being insulin resistant. So you want to make sure that that you eat right, that you eat complex carbs and not simple carbs. You don't want to consistently do things by having those 6 small meals or whatever. It just depends on what you're doing. Like, everybody does something different, but you don't want to do those eating those meals like that. That's going to cause you to have those blood sugar spikes, right? So again, just going back over the things that affect your blood glucose: medications, hormonal changes, gut issues, you know genetics, of course, that can affect it. Processed foods and sugar, overeating or grazing. Remember, that's akin to that 6 small meals a day. Um, you don't want to do that. So here was a study in 2013. They found that eating 2 large meals per day helped reduce blood glucose more effectively than 6 small meals per day. So and remember, it's important to keep your meals at the right proportions. Dehydration again, vitamin and mineral deficiencies can affect your blood glucose. And studies suggest that diets lacking the micronutrients like chromium, magnesium, and vitamin D, that can also increase your blood glucose. Stress, again, and poor sleep, and physical inactivity. So, what are some symptoms if you have high blood glucose? The most common symptom that people would be aware of would be thirst, frequent urination. Now, these are also the signs and symptoms that are for diabetes as well. Blurry vision, headaches, and brain fog. Increased cravings for carbs and sweets, hanger, you know, being hangry. Poor energy levels or midday crashes, fatigue, unintentional weight loss, slow healing cuts. These are all things that are akin to like diabetes as well. Okay. So let's see. We have anything. And again, if you want to know what your risk factors are for diabetes, for type 2 diabetes, or if you could potentially be pre-diabetic, you can go to go over to the ADA, American Diabetes Association, their website. They have a quiz over there that you can take, and that will tell you your risk factors. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up today. I had to come on and still go live. I will see you next week, next Tuesday, with our guest, Denise Wester. So, next Tuesday, I'll see you all then. Peace and blessings.